used to know the sound of our house. The garage doors rattle, the coffee maker's cough, the way the floorboard near the fridge complained when you leaned on it. Every noise belonged to a good life earned by honest work. Lately, the soundtrack changed. Calls ended mid-word when I came down the hall. Laughter snapped off like a light. Kitchen drawers opened and closed not for utensils, but to hide a phone. Silence grew where small talk used to live, and in that silence, I heard the start of something that didn't belong to us. Kelly used to narrate her day while I scraped mud off my boots. Client stories, office politics, what someone wore, who said something dumb in a meeting. Regular life. Then the fog rolled in. Careful phrasing, empty descriptions, the kind of pauses that tell you the truth is standing out on the porch while the lie sits at your table. She'd smile and say she was just tired. I've been tired since I was 19, hauling roofing shingles in August. Tired doesn't hide its phone under a cookbook. I'm not a suspicious man by default. I believe what I can lift, fix, and pay for, but I know patterns. I've read tape measures longer than some men have held a job. When a woman who used to invite you into her day starts guarding the door, you don't need a degree to see the hinge coming loose. So I watched, not snooping, not chasing, just watching like a man who knows a wall is bowing long before it cracks. The names came first. New ones. Women I'd met once, maybe twice, at a backyard barbecue where they brought store-bought potato salad and opinions nobody asked for. Cheryl, with a smile that never reached her eyes and a social media feed that looked like a halftime show in a stadium no one attended. Mia, whose hobbies included collecting red flags and calling it self-care. And Dana, divorced twice, now a life coach because Instagram said the crown fits whoever claims it. Kelly started repeating their phrases like lines she was learning for a play I hadn't auditioned for. Boundaries. Self-actualize. Find your truth. I work with wood. Words mean things. Boundary in my world is a fence that keeps what matters safe. In theirs, it sounded like a permission slip to treat people like furniture you move when you're bored. Nights changed. She took her wine into the office and shut the door to read. But the low hiss of whispers leaked through the vent. I could catch a word here, a giggle there, the rise and fall of advice that sounded like gasoline poured into a marriage they didn't build. I finished dishes slower than I needed to, rags wrung tight, letting the quiet show me more than any fight would. Men learn early. The guy who swings first doesn't always win. The guy who studies the tells almost always does. One afternoon, I watched her end a call at the clatter of my keys. She placed her phone face down like it was a grenade. Her smile came on late, and it didn't fit her mouth. "How was your day?" she asked. "Same as most," I said. "Straight lines, square corners." She laughed too hard for a sentence like that, so I let it sit. Truth hates quiet because quiet makes it echo. The next Saturday, her friends dropped by. No husbands, just a gust of perfume and the sound of opinions arranging themselves in our living room. I stayed in the garage, planing a slab of walnut for a coffee table a client wanted finished by the end of the month. The shavings curled like brown ribbon at my boots. Through the cracked side door, I caught bites of doctrine. You deserve. Don't let him. Trust your feelings. Funny how people who champion feelings never mention facts. They didn't see mortgage stubs with my name, or the cars kept running, or how the deck in our backyard held up a dozen barbecues without sagging. They saw a man who brought his lunch to work and thought predictable meant boring. I call it reliable. You know what you sleep on when you choose reliable? A mattress you paid for. Later, when they left in a flurry of promises to text, Kelly stood in the kitchen with that same late smile. I leaned on the counter, arms folded, and asked, "Are you happy with the counsel you're buying for the price of a bottle of rose?" "That's not fair," she said. "They're just looking out for me." Looking out from where? A studio apartment and a ring dish full of regrets. Her eyes flared, not with outrage, more like someone caught with a cheat sheet before the test. She gathered plates that didn't need gathering. "You're reading into things," she said. "I'm just reevaluating some stuff." I nodded. Reevaluate. Just don't sell the house to pay for the app. That night, I lay on my back and counted the slow spin of the ceiling fan. I didn't feel panic, or desperation. You can smell those on a man, and I don't wear cologne. What I felt was weight, like a beam taking a load it wasn't rated for because someone decided the architect was old-fashioned. So I did what a builder does when something's off. I took notes, times, patterns, words that didn't belong to her voice. Not to trap her, to keep myself honest. I made coffee at dawn and wrote a single line on a shop sticky note. If you have to chase it, it's already left. I stuck it on the drill press where I'd see it every morning. Men need rules. That was mine. I'd watch. I'd listen. And if the truth kept hiding, I'd open the door and let it leave, then lock it behind her. By the end of that first week of whispers, I knew two things. 1, my wife was letting tourists with megaphones tour our home. 2, I wasn't going to beg them or her to quiet down. Some men fight with words, some with fists. I fight with boundaries that don't bend. The house got quiet again. Only this time, the quiet belonged to me. I make dinner the way I build a frame. Simple, square, and strong. Cast iron skillet, bone-in pork chops, salt like gravel, pepper like rain. Green beans snapping like twigs, onions sweating until they shine. Kelly sets 2 plates, 2 forks. No candles, no playlist. Just the clink of silver and the slow tick of the kitchen clock that's been faithful longer than most marriages on her friends' feeds. She waits until my knife hits bone. That's when people test you mid-chew, mid-shift, mid-swing, when your hands are full and your guard is supposed to be down. Do you ever feel, she says, choosing the word like a surgeon, trapped? I set the knife across the plate and look at her. Not hard, not soft, just steady like a level on a 2x4. Trapped where? In our marriage. She takes a sip of water she doesn't need. In this. There's no curiosity in her voice. Curiosity has a tilt, a little vulnerable wobble that invites an honest answer. This sounds rehearsed. I can hear the rehearsal, on a couch with 3 women crowding the camera of someone's phone. The script punched up by a life coach who charges by the hour. I wipe my mouth, fold the napkin once, and set it down. Is that your question, Kel? I ask. Or theirs? She blinks. It's mine. Funny, I say, because it has their fingerprints all over it. Same soft tone, same vague charge, same courtroom where the judge has feelings and facts aren't allowed in the building. That's not fair, she says, quick now. They're concerned. They see me and they see you through a ring light and a filter. Concern is showing up with a truck when you're moving or cash when your brakes go. Concern isn't pushing you to burn a house you didn't build. Her fork lands with a small metallic answer. You're defensive. I'm decisive. I hold her eyes. There's a difference. The clock ticks. Outside, my neighbor's kid bounces a basketball, rubber rhythm against concrete. I can tell his crossover is getting better. He's using his hips now. When did you start feeling trapped? Ask. She looks down at her plate like the answer might be tucked under the chop. I didn't say I feel trapped. I asked if you do. And I asked whose question it was. She exhales. They just asked if I was happy, if we're still growing, if we still challenge each other. Growing, I say. I put in a deck last summer without a single sag. You want a challenge? Try carrying 80 pounds of concrete in July. We grow. We challenge ourselves. We don't post about it. That's exactly it, she says, pouncing on the shadow of a point. You think chores are intimacy. You think paying bills is love. I lean back, let the chair legs meet the tile with a quiet thud. No, I think showing up is love. I think a man who carries the weight is telling his woman she can trust the floor she walks on. If your friends taught you to call that boring, they're selling you a show, and they sell it to a new audience every month. Just because you work hard doesn't mean I can't ask questions. Ask better ones, I say. Ask, am I loyal? Ask, do I honor my vows when my friends are drunk on freedom? Ask, who benefits if I start a fire? Her mouth tightens. So I can't have friends? You can have friends who know how to keep a home standing. You want a demolition crew? Call a demolition crew. Just be honest about the job. She pushes her plate away, Appetite surrendered to pride. Maybe I do need space, she says, testing the word like a key in a lock. Just to think. To breathe. You can think right here, I say. Breathing's free in this kitchen. You're making me feel small. No, I say, voice low and flat. Your advisors made you feel big. I'm making you feel measured. If your ideas can't stand on the table without their hands up your back, they don't belong in this house. Silence lays itself between us. Not the old companionable kind, this one has edges. I cut another piece of chop, chew, and let the quiet work. Men lose ground when they rush to fill it. She tries again, lighter, spinning the wheel. Maybe we should try new things, she says. Be spontaneous. You know, romance. I nod at the memory. Like the cabin I booked 2 weekends ago? The one you canceled because Cheryl had wine tickets. Color touches her cheeks, then leaves. That was different. It always is. She reaches for the safer shore. You're very predictable. I call that reliable, I say. Predictable is a man who breaks at the first sign of smoke. Reliable is a man who reaches for the extinguisher he bought last spring. Her eyes shine with a heat that isn't tears. It's the anger of someone discovering the playbook doesn't work on this field. She stands, gathers her plate, then sets it down again, like the weight changed mid-lift. Do you love me? She asks suddenly, like a trapdoor. I love you enough to tell you the truth, I say. And the truth is, you're letting quitters teach you how to run. That's cruel. It's accurate. I let my words sit, then add what matters. Listen to me, Kel. If you have doubts, bring them here, no audience, no echo chamber, just us. But if you're shopping for a better version of me on a group chat, you're wasting time. They don't sell what I am. They don't even know how to price it. She looks at me like she's searching for the man who used to soften everything with a joke. He's not home tonight. I'm not the punchline to anyone's lesson plan. Finally, she says, I think I need to figure out who I am. I nod once. Figure it out. Just know this. If figuring it out means packing a bag and trying on singlehood with a chorus behind you, there's no pause button waiting for you here. You walk out. That's a choice, not a rehearsal. I didn't say I'm leaving. You brought the word trapped to my table, I say. You don't ask that if you like the room. She sinks back into her chair, deflated and unwilling to admit it. I stand, take our plates to the sink, run hot water until the steam fogs the window. Behind me, the clock keeps time like a drummer who never misses a beat. When I'm done, I dry my hands and turn. We're not a panel discussion, I say. We're a marriage. If you want to test it here. Without them. She doesn't answer. That's fine. I don't need one. Men who know their line don't chase anyone across it. Later, in the garage, I sharpen a chisel until it shaves hair. Steel tells the truth if you listen. Angle, pressure, patience. Push too fast and you round the edge. Hold steady and you get something that bites clean when it matters. I put the tool down, wipe the blade, and write a second note to tack beside the first. Questions are welcome. Scripts are not. In the house, a door closes. Not hard. Just be careful. Like someone leaving a room she isn't sure she deserves anymore. A week passed like a carpenter's pencil dragging across warped wood. Crooked, grinding, never smooth. Kelly still moved through the house, but her rhythm wasn't ours anymore. She'd sit at the edge of the couch with her phone tilted away from me, thumbs scrolling like she was flipping through a manual for a life I hadn't signed up for. And I kept my rule. I didn't chase. I just watched. One evening, I came in early from the shop. The front door stuck like it always did when the humidity swelled the frame, so I pushed it slowly, making no noise. Voices floated from the kitchen, low and conspiratorial. Kelly's voice, soft but carrying the weight of lines that didn't sound like her. He's predictable, she said into the phone. Boring. He never surprises me. It's like, I don't know, he's just not romantic. I stopped dead. My jaw clenched until it hurt. 2 days earlier, I'd surprised her with a weekend getaway to Fredericksburg. Wine country, a cabin booked, time carved out of my schedule. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and told me it was sweet. Now, to some friend on the other end of the line, it was ammunition. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and leaned on the wall. Not because I needed evidence to wave in her face. Because men who live in reality keep receipts. Kelly kept going. Yeah, he works hard, but it's the same every day. Dinner, TV, bed. He just doesn't get it. That was enough. I walked in, boots loud on the tile. She flinched, whipping the phone to her chest like a teenager caught past curfew. Who are you talking to? I asked. She stammered, then found footing. Just Cheryl. Of course. I nodded. And was that you talking just now? Or was that Cheryl talking through you? Her face reddened. Don't start. No, I said, voice low but sharp. Let's finish. 2 nights ago, I handed you keys to a cabin. Wine, fireplace, everything you say you want. And tonight, you tell someone I'm predictable and boring. That's not your voice, Kel. That's their script. And you're reading it like gospel. Her chin jutted forward. Stubborn. Maybe I do feel that way. Do you? Or are you just trying on their feelings like a dress you can't afford? Her mouth opened, but no words came. Just a flash of guilt in her eyes before pride covered it. You don't listen to me. That's the problem. I barked out a humorless laugh. No, I hear you fine. I just know when the words don't belong to you. You think I don't notice? The late-night calls, the whispered advice, the phrases straight out of some self-help podcast hosted by women who can't keep a man in the house for longer than a season? You've turned our marriage into their group project. That's not fair, she snapped. They care about me. Care? I stepped closer, close enough that she had to look up at me. They don't care, Kel. They're bored. They want company in their misery. You're their entertainment. Every time you call me predictable, they clap like it's karaoke night. They aren't saving you. They're stripping you. Her hands trembled as she set the phone down on the counter. You're twisting it. No, I said steady. I'm cutting straight. You're the one twisting yourself to fit their approval. The kitchen went silent except for the hum of the fridge. I stood there, arms folded, while she fidgeted with the edge of her sleeve. The mask had slipped, just for a second, and I saw it, her confusion, her doubt. You think I don't see it? I pressed. Brick by brick, they're dismantling us. Not with truth, but with poison. And you're letting them pour it. Her lip trembled. She wanted to lash back, to swing, but her aim was off. She finally whispered, maybe I just need space. I shook my head. Space isn't the problem. Influence is. And I'll tell you now, if you walk out thinking this is just some test run, you're wrong. You don't take a sledgehammer to a house and then ask if the foundation still holds. You either stay and fight for it, or you leave and accept what you destroyed. Her eyes welled, but she blinked it back, refusing to give me that. Good. Tears wouldn't fix it anyway. I picked up her phone from the counter, glanced at the black screen, then set it back down, slow and deliberate. Decide whose voice you want to live by, Kel. Because if it isn't yours, I'm not interested. Then I walked out to the garage, the smell of walnut dust still hanging from the project I'd left. I shut the door behind me and let the silence settle. I wasn't angry in the way she wanted me to be. Not shouting, not flailing. No, my anger was a tool, sharp and precise. And tonight, I'd used it to carve away the lie. Out there, I wrote another note for the wall above my bench. If the words aren't hers, they don't count. And as I sat sharpening my chisels, I knew her mask had slipped, and I wasn't about to let her put it back on without a fight. The air in our house had turned thick, like insulation gone damp. Every conversation sagged under weight it didn't need to carry. We ate in silence, went to bed in silence, and woke up to silence. I've worked in crawl spaces where the air moved freer. It was a Thursday night when Kelly finally played the card she thought would tip the table. She stood by the counter, arms folded tight, phone still warm from whatever pep talk her friends had pumped into her. Her voice shook at first, but the script steadied her. I need space, she said. I didn't flinch. I didn't set down my fork or rub my temples. I just looked up, calm as a man checking the level on a shelf. Space for what? To find myself, she answered, chin lifting like a flag on the wrong pole. I don't know who I am anymore. I need time apart to figure it out. I nodded once, slow. Not a weekend with your sister. Not a retreat. You mean separation. Her throat bobbed. Yes, just for a while. I'm not saying it's over. She spread her hands, rehearsed but unsure. I just need to breathe. I leaned back in my chair, hands folded across my chest. Kel, listen closely, because I'm only saying this once. If you walk out that door under the banner of space, you're not on pause. You're on stop. And stop means done. She blinked, surprised by the bluntness. Maybe she expected a speech. Maybe she thought I'd beg, promise, scramble to sweeten the deal. But I wasn't built for begging. Men like me build for permanence, houses, tables, fences. We don't patch holes with desperation. You don't mean that, she said softly, searching for cracks in my tone. I stared back steady. I've never meant anything more. Her lip trembled. You're just trying to scare me. No, I said. I'm just refusing to lie to you. Space is just a polite word for absence. And absence rots everything it touches. She turned away, crossing her arms like a shield. My friends think. I cut her off with a sharp hand. I don't give a damn what they think. They're not married to me. They're not paying this mortgage. They don't share this roof. They don't get a vote in my house. Do you want their counsel? Live with them. But don't stand here pretending their words aren't spilling out of your mouth. That struck her. She bit her lip, anger mixing with shame. Why can't you just let me do this without making it so final? Because I deal in reality, not experiments. You leave, you're choosing. And choices carry consequences. You don't get to play wife on weekends and free spirit on weekdays. Her shoulders slumped, then stiffened. So you're giving me an ultimatum? I shook my head. No. You gave yourself one the moment you said the word space. I'm just refusing to dress it up with false hope. Men like me don't live in limbo. The silence after that wasn't heavy. It was clear. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe without second-guessing every inhale. She sniffled, wiping at eyes that had stayed dry too long to suddenly cry now. You're so cold. I stood, carried my plate to the sink, and rinsed it clean. Back to her, I said, no, I'm honest. And honesty feels cold when you've been burning lies for warmth. When I turned, she was still standing there, trembling like a woman realizing the edge she thought was a test cliff is actually the drop. Kel, I said, softer but firm, I don't hate you. I don't wish you harm. But I won't beg you to stay. I won't hold the door open while you decide if I'm worth keeping. You want space? Take it. Just understand, you're not coming back to the same man when you do. She stared at me, lips parted, words fighting to rise but never winning. Finally, she stormed past, grabbing her purse, her keys jangling like a warning bell. The front door slammed. I stood there, listening to the echo fade. The house settled around me, quiet, steady, mine. Out in the garage, I picked up a scrap of oak and carved another line with my knife. When she leaves for space, fill it with strength. I set it on the bench right next to the other notes. Tools in their own way. That night, the bed felt wide. But not empty, just mine. The morning after she left, the house was still. No clatter of a hairdryer, no perfume lingering in the hall, no voice calling down asking if I'd seen her keys. Just quiet, the kind of quiet most men are afraid of. Not me. I poured black coffee into a chipped mug, leaned against the counter, and felt the silence settle like a well-built roof. By noon, word was already trickling back. Not from her, Kelly wouldn't call me. From the grapevine that never sleeps. Social media. Her friends threw her a freedom toast at some chain restaurant that sells cheap wine like it's liquid gold. They snapped photos of themselves clinking glasses, arms thrown wide, captions dripping with hashtags about liberation, independence, and self-love. I saw the pictures when a mutual friend tagged me by accident. Kelly in the corner, smiling too big, holding a glass like a lifeline. She didn't look free. She looked like someone auditioning for a role she wasn't built for. But online, The narrative was set. She escaped the boring, predictable husband, and now the world was hers. I didn't post. I didn't comment. Men who've lived long enough know silence hits harder than any reply. Instead, I thrived in my own way. Thursday night poker with the guys at Miller's garage. Smoke curling, cards slapping wood, laughter echoing against metal shelves stacked with oil cans. Saturday afternoons with a chisel in hand, shaping walnut until it gleamed. Sunday evenings with a ribeye on the grill, the sizzle carrying across the fence while neighbors leaned over to talk shop. No drama, no second-guessing, just peace. Meanwhile, the whispers circled back through people who hadn't picked sides. Kelly was renting a cramped apartment with walls thin enough to hear the neighbor's dog cough. Her paycheck, once cushioned by a two-income household, didn't stretch far when wine nights and rent pulled in opposite directions. Her adventure looked glamorous on a phone screen, but off-camera, she was stretching pasta and skipping bills. A buddy who still worked near her office told me she looked tired, brittle, the kind of tired makeup can't cover. Her friends still dragged her out, but less often and always with the same routine. Photos first, reality second. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub my hands like a villain. That's not how men like me operate. I just lived. Every evening I came home to a house that was cleaner, quieter, and freer than it had been in years. My tools stayed where I left them. My meals were simple but solid. My sleep was deep. The irony was sharp. Her friends had promised her excitement, fireworks, freedom. What she got was isolation and bills. What I got was peace. One night, scrolling before bed, I saw another picture. Her group again, -1. No Kelly. Just Cheryl and Dana holding glasses high, hashtagging about resilience. I laughed once, low in my chest, then set the phone face down. I didn't need to see more. Because here's the truth. Peace doesn't need an audience. And freedom? Real freedom isn't a photo op. It's a man standing in his own house, unbothered, unbroken, building a life that doesn't ask for validation. Before turning in, I wrote another line on a scrap of pine and tacked it above the bench. Her freedom is a performance. My peace is the proof. And I slept like a man who knew the scoreboard had already turned. By the fourth week, her highlight reel started losing color. The Freedom Toast photos slowed. The captions about independence dried up. I didn't need to stalk her pages. I've got better things to do than chase ghosts. Word traveled anyway. Mutual friends who hadn't picked sides carried pieces of the story, sometimes without even meaning to. Kelly had moved from that first cramped apartment into something cheaper and smaller. Her sisters were still around in theory, but theory doesn't carry boxes up 3 flights of stairs. She'd called Dana to help, but Dana had plans. She asked Cheryl for a loan to cover the deposit, but Cheryl suddenly remembered she was tight on cash. The same women who popped corks over her escape were suddenly hard to reach. That's how it works. They rally when there's drama. Wine glasses raised, phones snapping proof that they're rebels. But when the bill comes due, they scatter. I heard from a friend who lived 2 streets over from Kelly's new place. He saw her lugging groceries alone, bags digging into her arms, face flushed from the heat. Said she looked worn down, like she hadn't slept in weeks. The shine of rebellion was gone. The cracks widened when she overheard something she wasn't meant to hear. At another girls' night, she showed up late and caught them mid-conversation. They weren't praising her courage or lifting her up. They were mocking her. "Kelly's so needy," Dana laughed. "Every time my phone buzzes, I pray it's not her asking for something." Cheryl chimed in. She thought leaving him would make her life glamorous. Now she just complains. She's depressing to be around. They didn't notice her right away, standing there in the doorway, listening to her support system dismantle her like she wasn't even in the room. When they did see her, their smiles were thin, forced, the kind you paste on when the truth slips out too fast. She left early that night, no selfies, no posts, no hashtags, just silence. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My house had never been cleaner. My shop had never been busier. Word had spread about my work, and new orders kept rolling in. Friday night poker had turned into a standing tradition, and Saturday cookouts filled the backyard with laughter. I wasn't lonely. I wasn't broken. I was steady. Kelly, on the other hand, was realizing something her friends never told her. Sisterhood comes with fine print. They're with you when your misery entertains them, when your rebellion feeds their narrative. But when the dust settles and the rent's due, they vanish. One mutual acquaintance told me Kelly had called crying, saying she felt abandoned. The same friends who once told her she was so brave now dodged her calls, rolled their eyes when her name came up, and labeled her a burden. They didn't want her happiness, they wanted her downfall because misery loves company, but only for as long as it's fun. I didn't celebrate her pain. I didn't post a victory lap. Men like me don't need to. Reality does the work for us. But in my garage, late one night, sanding down a slab of oak until it shone under the lamp, I let myself think about it. I thought about the day she said she needed space, and the way her eyes had flashed with certainty, convinced her sisters would carry her through. And now, for weeks later, she was hauling her own groceries, listening to those same women laugh behind her back. I took a piece of scrap wood and carved a new line, slow and deliberate. Their support was rented. My strength is mine. I tacked it above the bench, right beside the others. And I knew it was only a matter of time before she came knocking, because the house she left still stood, steady as ever. And the people she chose instead, they'd already moved on to the next drama. 2 months after she left, I heard the sound that had been missing. 3 short knocks on my front door. Not the firm knock of a neighbor dropping by, not the lazy thump of a delivery driver. This was hesitant, uneven, like guilt tapping in rhythm. I opened it to find Kelly standing there. She looked like a sketch of the woman I used to know, same outline, but the details smudged. Her hair was flat, her skin pale, her eyes rimmed red. No lipstick, no smile, no performance. Just a woman stripped down by choices that didn't deliver. "Hi," she whispered, voice raw. I leaned against the frame, arms folded. Filling the silence she clearly didn't know how to bridge. "Can I come in?" she asked finally. I let her step inside, but I didn't offer a seat. A man's home is his stronghold, and she'd forfeited her claim to comfort here. Tears started before the words did. I made a mistake," she said, hands trembling. "They told me I'd feel free, that I'd be happier, but they lied. They just wanted me to be miserable like them. And when I needed help, they were gone. They don't care about me." I nodded once. "I told you that." She flinched. Truth cuts harder when you ignore it the first time. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Leaving you, it was the worst decision of my life. I see that now. You were always steady, always there. And I threw it away because I let them get in my head." Her voice broke into sobs. "Please, can we try again? Can I come home?" I watched her crumble, standing in the same kitchen where she once accused me of being predictable, boring, unromantic. She was begging now, but regret doesn't rebuild trust. Regret just shows you the price of foolishness. "Kelly," I said, calm but firm, "you didn't just leave me. You replaced us with them. You traded a man who built you a life for women who laughed behind your back. And now you're here because their foundation crumbled." She wiped her face, desperate. "I know, and I hate myself for it, but I can change. I'll cut them off, I'll do whatever it takes. Just give me another chance." I shook my head slowly. "It doesn't work like that. You can't burn down a house and walk back in expecting the walls to be standing. Trust isn't a switch. It's lumber, nails, sweat. And you ripped it apart brick by brick." Her sobs grew louder, shoulders shaking. "Please, I don't know what to do without you." I stayed steady. "Then figure it out. Because the man you left isn't here anymore. I'm stronger without you, and I won't carry the weight of your regret on my back." The silence after that was crushing. She realized there was no script for this moment, no line her friends had prepared, no shortcut, just consequence. Finally, she nodded, broken. "I understand." She turned and walked out, shoulders slumped, each step heavier than the last. The door clicked shut behind her, and the house settled into the same quiet I'd grown to love. I sat at the table, not angry, not gloating, just clear. Some knocks don't deserve to be answered the way they're hoped for. Later, in the garage, I carved the next line into pine. Regret is not redemption. And I tacked it above the bench where it belonged. She came back again a week later. No makeup this time either. No careful clothes. Just jeans and a faded sweatshirt like armor she hadn't polished. I let her in, but the weight of the air told her straight away this wasn't her house anymore. It was mine. She sat at the kitchen table, eyes darting like a kid waiting for discipline. I meant what I said last time, she began. I'll do anything. I'll cut them off. I'll go to counseling. I just want to make this right. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. Kelly, listen carefully. If there's even a path forward, it's not to me. It's through you. That means therapy, not a couples counselor where you get to point fingers, but your own work. That means cutting ties with every last one of those women who steered you here. That means rebuilding yourself alone before you ever think about partnership again. Her face fell. So what? You're giving me conditions? I shook my head. Not conditions. Reality. You don't rebuild by painting over mold. You strip it, treat it, and start again. You've been letting parasites feed on you for months. Cut them off or keep rotting. Her eyes welled, but I didn't soften. A man who does hard work knows the difference between tough love and empty sympathy. And hear me clear, I added. Even if you do all that, there are no guarantees. You don't walk back into my life because you're lonely. You earn the right to even ask. And right now, you're nowhere near it. She bristled. That's cruel. No, I said flatly. It's a consequence. You wanted space and you got it. You wanted freedom and you wore it like a badge until it cracked. Now you're living with what that choice cost. I didn't push you out. You walked. Her hands twisted together. So what? I'm supposed to fix my life just to maybe be considered again? Exactly, I said. Because the man I've become in these 2 months doesn't sit around waiting. I've got a shop full of work, friends who actually show up, and peace I didn't know I was missing. You think I'm desperate to rewind the clock? Wrong. I've moved forward. If you want to catch up, you better start walking fast. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, realizing the husband she once called predictable now stood as a man who wouldn't bend. Her lower lip trembled. So that's it? No promises. Promises. I shook my head. The only promise I'll make is this: whatever life I build from here will be honest, steady, and mine. Whether you're in it or not is up to what you do, not what you say at my table. She swallowed hard, searching for a foothold that wasn't there. For once, she couldn't negotiate, couldn't pout, couldn't guilt her way into control. She was up against a man who'd learned silence is stronger than shouting and boundaries louder than begging. Finally, she stood. I don't know if I can do all that, she whispered. I shrugged. Then you already have your answer. Her eyes filled, but I didn't move to comfort her. That wasn't my job anymore. She walked out slower this time, shoulders rounded not with pride but with weight. The door closed behind her, and the house stayed calm. In the garage that night, I tacked up a new scrap of oak, carving deep so the words bit clean. No guarantees, no shortcuts, no waiting, and I felt it. Not anger, not even relief, just clarity. She had gambled and she'd lost. And I was already living in the win. The last time I saw Kelly, she didn't bother with speeches. No begging, no lists of promises, no rehearsed apologies. Just a quiet goodbye from the porch, her car packed halfway like she hadn't decided what parts of her life were worth carrying. She looked at me for a long moment, like maybe my face still held the man who would soften, who would chase. But that man was gone. I stood with my arms folded, steady, silent, letting her know without words. This was the end. She gave me a nod, small, defeated, and drove away. When the taillights disappeared, I turned back inside. The house didn't echo like I thought it would. It felt solid, grounded, like it finally recognized me as its only keeper. My boots on the hardwood, the hum of the fridge, the creak of the old recliner, all mine. I poured myself a bourbon, neat, sat at the kitchen table. No phone buzzing with arguments. No clock watching to see if she was late. No hidden whispers behind a closed door. Just me, my drink, and the sound of quiet earned. Later, in the garage, I stood before the wall of notes I'd carved these past months. Each scrap of would told a story. If you have to chase it, it has already left. Regret is not redemption. No guarantees. No shortcuts. No waiting. A man's journal, written not in ink, but in steel and grit. I ran my hand over the last one, the edges still sharp, and I realized something. I wasn't the man she left. That man was steady but too willing to assume stability would be enough. This man had been tested, stripped down, rebuilt. And the best part? I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way I had been. My anger had done its job. It had cleared the rot, set the boundaries, drawn the line. Now it was quiet, like a fire reduced to coals, warm and controlled, fueling me instead of burning me out. The next weekend, I had the guys over again. Poker chips clattered, whiskey glasses clinked, smoke curled into the rafters of the garage. We laughed, swapped stories, busted chops the way men do when there's no filter and no audience. And in the middle of it, I caught myself smiling, real, easy, unforced. That's when I knew. Peace was the proof. Not revenge, not winning her back, not parading my survival. Just standing tall in the life she thought I couldn't handle alone, and thriving in it. When the night ended and the garage was quiet again, I carved my final line, deep and permanent into oak, not pine. The man she left is gone. The man I became is free. I tacked it high on the wall, above all the others, where it belonged. Then I turned off the light, stepped into my house, and closed the door behind me. Not with anger, not with regret, with peace.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.